Today, you can find glory in learning how to sew your own Tsuno bag. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how you could sew your own Tsuno bag, which is also known as a knot bag. I'd say the Tsuno bag's relatively easy, a little bit on the beginner side. The most difficult part is just having the patience to make your own bias tape. I'd say the bias tape maker is not an essential item. If you're looking for the essential tools as a beginner sewer, I have a video that I just made on that. You can make bias tape on your own without using these tools, but these are a lot more helpful and make it quicker. It's about $10 for the set, so I'll have a link in the description below if you want to copy it off Amazon. But when I first started, I actually didn't have this and I still made bias tape on my own. This just makes it a lot easier. So if you have the 10 bucks, I would definitely cop these because it's pretty useful. Because the shape of the pattern is pretty simple, I challenge you to try to make your own pattern. That way you could practice making them yourself and eventually learn how to create your own. I'm not gonna have a DIY kit for this one, but if you are interested in the Tsuno bag and you don't know how to sew, I'll have a few handmade items ready. Just go to gloryallan.com to find the ready to wear Tsuno bags. So it's DIY time. A lot of the times when you're working on sewing projects, you wanna wash the material before you start sewing to reduce any shrinkage and clean it as much as possible. I'm using polycotton twill for my fabric in this green smoke color. You're gonna need 1 yard of fabric for the whole project, and I'm gonna cut one panel at a time. So here I am with half a yard for just one side of the bag. The way you could differentiate the wrong side from the right side is that the right side for polycotton twill are gonna have these diagonal woven lines. When you flip it over and see the wrong side, it's not gonna have those diagonal lines. It's a little bit rougher, the color's a little different. So it's an easy way to tell, especially for polycotton twill, diagonal lines is the right side. So now I have my fabric folded right sides together. It's 60 inches long by half a yard when unfolded, and when it's folded, it's 1/4 of a yard wide. So we're gonna grab our ruler and chalk and draw on the pattern. The reason we fold fabrics in half is that when we end up tracing and cutting out our panel, it makes sure that the shape of the bag is symmetrical, and it's also just a lot more efficient to cut 2 layers of fabric versus 1. The dimensions of the bag on the pattern is going to be 8.5 inches wide by 12.5 inches tall, plus the length of the straps. However, you can also get creative with it. You could change the dimensions of your bag, maybe make it slimmer, make it taller, especially the length of the straps. Everyone's size is different. Maybe for the first bag, try out this sizing, but for your second bag, adjust it to how you like it, because at the end of the day, you're the one wearing this. This is a project made for you, so let's customize the shape for yourself. So once you decide on the dimensions of your bag, you can start drawing it in. Mine's gonna be 8.5 wide by 12.5 tall. So all I have so far is the 8.5 by 12.5 inch rectangle drawn. And this is gonna be our main bag with the seam allowance already included. For the bottom right corner, I'm gonna smoothen off the edge by using my ruler and chalk just to draw a 4-inch wide line so that the shape of the bag doesn't have as tight of a corner. And then on the top here, I'm gonna draw the straps. I'm gonna make the strap 2 inches wide. So that's gonna be about the size of this ruler, which makes it convenient because you line up the right side of your ruler to the bag and then just continue the line upwards on both sides of the ruler. 2 inches wide is gonna give you a more narrow strap. I also did 2.5 inches and 3 inches, which also work great. So it's pretty much just up to your preference. Now we'll continue drawing the line up higher for the straps, but I'm gonna also smooth out the corner. Make sure before you start moving the fabric around that you pin or clip it in so you don't lose that fold. Once your project's held together, whether you're using clips like me or pins like not me, then you can pull the fabric down and continue the strap all the way up. I'm gonna draw my straps to about 25 inches. Now I'm 5'9" and this works for me. It's a little bit on the shorter end, but I like it this way. If you prefer the bag to hang lower on your body, then you could do a longer strap. I would just adjust the straps according to your height. So for my size of the straps, I'm gonna do 25 inches. So what I did was from the top of the bag, I measured 25 inches of a strap and I drew a little line here as a marker. And then At the end of the straps, I want them to come to a point. So I'm just gonna draw, and this one I would just improvise. Grab your chalk, line it up to the outside edge of the bag, and draw about a 4 to 6 inch line going to the inside line. Then grab your fabric scissors and cut it out. I love capturing B-roll of fabric getting cut. I feel like the reflection of the shiny scissors on the fabric or the cutting mat just looks so nice and satisfying. It's like a commercial. Let me know in the comment section if you're with me on that. Okay, so you've cut out one side of the bag. Now leave the clips so that it stays folded and put that panel on top of another 1/4 yard folded fabric so you can cut the other side of the bag. This is the part where you need to grab pins. Clips alone won't do it. I know it's not everyone's favorite thing, especially not mine, but proceed with caution. Grab those pins carefully and pin it down so that when you grab your scissors and cut it out, that the pattern on top will stay in place. This is a pretty good case to prove that you need to have pins before you buy clips. Clips are a luxury, pins are essential. Now when you remove the remaining fabric that you cut off, you're left with two beautiful, symmetrical Tsuno Bag panels. And we're gonna open them up and put them right sides to right sides, and then sew the outside of the bag together. So right now I have the right side of each side on the inside, and you can tell by the diagonal woven lines. We're gonna line up the panels so that they match, and clip them together, and then sew them together.
I never understood why somebody would just hate you for no reason. You don't even know the person, but you hate them.
Also, these DIY tutorials are just one of two pillars for my clothing brand, the second being my ready-to-wear collection. And I'm working on a big first step right now where I'm gonna release my first transitional pants/shorts design. I've been working on this for over a year. It's gone through so many iterations, but I finally nailed down the design. This is a very exciting time for me because a lot of the work that I've done so far is for the DIY tutorials, but I've also been working behind the scenes on this ready-to-wear collection. So it's finally getting to that stage where I can share the work that I've been doing in tandem with these DIY tutorials. This is by far one of my favorite designs yet, so if you have the time, check out in the link below. I really appreciate it.
I never understood why somebody would just hate you for no reason.
I'm gonna set the tension to 4 and the stitch length to 2, and I'm gonna sew all the way around at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, or 1 centimeter. Same thing. When you come to the corners, don't forget to leave the needle down when you pull the press foot up to pivot the fabric so that you can turn on a stitch. Needle down, press foot up, pivot, press foot down, and so on and so forth. If you have a serger, now's a good time to serge the edges to keep it all nice and tucked. But if you don't have a serger, but you do have a zigzag stitch, then here's what you could do. Switch the stitch to the zigzag, change the width to about 5, this is up to you, and increase the stitch length to about 3. Now you can do a zigzag stitch all the way around, and this just helps tie in the raw edges so that it doesn't fray. I guess I should mention, if you want to get really clean stitches throughout this whole project, a helpful tip is to hit that sub button for good luck. Depending how you drew out and cut the end of your straps, you can cut off this little excess here, and then before you move on, make sure you switch all your sewing machine settings back to how they were before. Now the majority of the bag's done. All we have to do is add the bias tape on the inside to give it a clean look. For those of you wondering what bias tape is, it's just fabric cut on the bias. Because it's cut on the bias, it's usually got a little bit more stretch to it, and bias tape is usually used to cover up the raw edges of fabric, so that extra stretch gives you a little bit more flexibility when you're dealing with sewing on a curve. Now we're already 9 minutes into the tutorial, and it seemed kind of repetitive to do a second full 10-minute tutorial on how to make bias tape. Right now, I would say if you know how to do bias tape, skip ahead. And if you don't know how to make bias tape, press pause and go on my channel and look at GA010 or how to make continuous bias tape on my channel. And without a doubt, these bias tape tool makers make making bias tape a lot easier. I wouldn't really try making bias tape without it, although you could. This just gives very consistent folds and makes it 10 times faster. So that's why, you know, the extra 10 bucks to buy a 5-piece set seems worth it to me. And while I'm not going to show you how to make bias tape, I'm going to show you how you could sew it around the tight corners of the ends of the straps. So imagine this is your bias tape. Just run it all the way up to the point and then finish the stitch by doing a reverse stitch. Take it out, cut the thread, and then fold the rest of the bias tape over it, overlapping it, and then continue to sew from that bias tape forward. This is really going to depend on how sharp your strap corners are. If it's not that sharp, then you might be able to get away with it with just one straight stitch all the way around. Make sure you press out your seams. And that's how you make a Tsuno bag. As a reminder, there's going to be links in the description below for patterns, DIY kits, and ready to wear handmade items. And also, if you're interested in the pre-order for those pants that I'm going to be releasing, the link is also in the description. And I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.